Hidden behind those calm, amber eyes lies the cat's mind, a quiet landscape of predatory instinct and gentle affection. It is a world built on millions of years of silence. While you settle in and click the like button to support our journey, consider that house cats are genetically almost identical to wild cats. Specifically, your domestic companion shares 95.6% of their DNA with tigers. This means the soft creature sleeping at the foot of a bed possesses the exact same biological hardware used to stalk prey in the dense jungle. They are descended primarily from the African wildcat, or Felis sylvestris libica, a fierce and solitary hunter of the desert scrub. What makes their history truly unique is that, unlike dogs, who were selectively bred by humans to perform specific tasks like herding or guarding, cats effectively domesticated themselves. Around 10,000 years ago, as humans began storing grain in the Fertile Crescent, wildcats moved closer to settlements to hunt the rodents attracted to the harvest. They chose to live alongside us, initiating a relationship based on mutual benefit rather than forced servitude. Because of this specific history, the feline brain has hardly changed over the millennia, retaining the wild instincts of their ancestors intact. They remain what biologists call mesopredators, meaning they occupy a middle ground where they are both hunters and potential prey in the wild. This dual status profoundly shapes their psychology, creating a mind that is perpetually alert even during moments of deep rest. It explains their instinctual preference for high vantage points, which offer safety from larger predators while allowing them to survey the ground below for movement. Their evolutionary lineage diverged from the ancestors of dogs roughly 40 million years ago, creating a completely different form of intelligence that we are only just beginning to understand. While a dog might look to a human for guidance or permission, a cat's brain is wired for independent problem-solving. This self-reliance is not a sign of aloofness, but a necessary survival mechanism etched into their neural pathways. Their sensory systems are fine-tuned instruments of detection, designed to locate small, scuttling prey in near-total darkness. The brain of a cat devotes a massive amount of processing power to auditory and olfactory data, creating a mental map of their environment defined by sound and scent. To manage this influx of sensory data, the physical engine driving the operation must be incredibly sophisticated. When you look at the physical architecture of a domestic cat's brain, you are looking at a marvel of biological efficiency that prioritizes density over raw volume. In terms of physical dimensions, the organ is deceptively compact, typically measuring only 5 centimeters in length and weighing roughly 25 to 30 grams. To put that into perspective, the organ accounts for roughly 0.9% of the cat's total body mass. While this might seem small compared to the large cranium of a primate, in the world of neurology, raw size is rarely the most accurate indicator of intelligence or processing power. If we judged solely by weight, we might underestimate their cognitive depth, but the true secret lies in the surface topography. If you were to examine the surface of a cat's brain, you would see a landscape defined by deep, intricate folds and ridges, known technically as gyri and sulci. This structural folding, or gyrification, is remarkably complex, far more so than what is found in many other mammals of similar size, such as rabbits or small dogs. This structural folding is nature's solution to a complex geometry problem. It allows a vast amount of surface area, the cerebral cortex, to be packed tightly into a streamlined skull. It is essentially a method of maximizing neural real estate without increasing the overall volume of the head, ensuring the cat remains aerodynamic and agile. Because of this extensive folding, the density of neurons within the feline cortex is exceptionally high. Current estimates suggest that the cerebral cortex of a cat contains approximately 300 million neurons. This is the specific region responsible for rational decision-making, complex problem-solving, and interpreting the massive stream of sensory input we previously discussed. This high neural density provides the computational bandwidth necessary for the intricate stalking behaviors and split-second physical calculations cats perform daily. Perhaps even more fascinating than the cognitive processing power is the structural layout of their emotional centers. When neuroscientists compare the brain of a cat to a human, they find striking similarities in the physical arrangement of the temporal and frontal lobes. These are the critical areas governing emotion and memory. The architecture is so similar, in fact, that experts believe cats experience emotions in a way that is structurally comparable to our human experience. They possess the same biochemical hardware to process fear, affection, and contentment, suggesting their minds are wired for a rich inner life that bridges the gap between simple animal instinct and complex emotional awareness. While this emotional depth suggests a contemplative nature, the actual machinery of a cat's mind operates at a velocity that is nearly impossible for us to synchronize with. If we look at the raw physics of their nervous system, we find that a cat's brain is engineered for immediate, explosive processing. In the time it takes a human to simply register that an object has moved, a cat's brain has already calculated the object's trajectory, identified it as prey or threat, and initiated a physical response. This discrepancy comes down to the sheer speed of synaptic firing. The average human reaction time to a visual stimulus hovers around 250 milliseconds. A cat, however, operates with a reaction time between 20 and 70 milliseconds. This incredible biological latency explains why you might feel as though your cat anticipates your movements before you make them. In a very real neurological sense, they are processing the present moment faster than you are. This speed creates a phenomenon regarding how they perceive the flow of time itself, often described as their refresh rate of reality. Scientists measure this using the critical flicker fusion frequency, which determines how fast a light must flash before it appears as a steady, continuous beam. Humans usually see a continuous image at around 60 Hz. Cats, however, require a much higher frequency, closer to 100 Hz, to see a smooth image. This implies that they perceive the world with a higher time resolution, essentially seeing more frames per second than we do. To a cat, a fly buzzing through the room does not appear as a blurry streak, but rather moves with a crisp, trackable clarity, almost as if it were moving in slow motion. This is also why cats often ignored older television sets. The refresh rate of cathode ray tubes was too slow for their eyes, making the image appear as a chaotic strobe light flicker rather than a moving picture. This rapid neural throughput is physically supported by exceptional myelination in their nervous system. Myelin is the insulating layer around nerves that allows electrical impulses to transmit quickly and efficiently. In cats, the neural pathways connecting the eyes, the inner ear, and the spinal muscles are heavily insulated, creating a superhighway for sensory data. This is most evident in the famous righting reflex. When a cat falls, the information from their vestibular system bypasses the conscious thinking part of the brain and is routed directly to the spine. This allows them to orient their head and twist their body in mid-air faster than conscious thought could ever allow, effectively reacting before their mind has even finished registering the fall. This speed reveals a fundamental division within the feline mind, a separation between the ancient automatic pilot of the brainstem and the modern calculating pilot of the cortex. While we often view our pets through the lens of their unique quirks and individual personalities, a massive portion of their existence is governed by a genetic script that was written millions of years before the first cat ever stepped foot inside a human home. This is the primal blueprint, a set of hardwired instructions that require no conscious thought to execute, acting as a survival override that functions independently of their learned experiences. Consider the hunting sequence of a young kitten. Even if raised in complete isolation without a mother to teach it, a kitten will instinctively crouch, wiggle its hind quarters to gain traction, and pounce on a moving object. It does not need to be taught what to do. The software comes pre-installed in their DNA. However, the finesse required to actually catch a mouse or a feather on a string is where the thinking brain takes over. They must learn through trial and error that pouncing from too far away alerts the prey, or that claws must be sheathed to move silently across a hardwood floor. This intersection of rigid instinct and flexible learning is what makes the cat such a successful evolutionary masterpiece. They are born with the tools, but they must use their intelligence to master them. It is often said that cats are not truly domesticated in the same way dogs are, and biologically, this rings true. The genetic difference between your house cat and the African wildcat, their direct ancestor, is infinitesimally small. Unlike dogs, which humans have selectively bred to alter their behaviors and shapes drastically over millennia, cats essentially domesticated themselves while keeping their wild operating system intact. This means that when your cat stares intently at a blank wall or dashes frantically down the hallway at 3 in the morning, they are not acting out of confusion. They are responding to ancient impulses designed for the savanna, triggered by the subtle stimuli of a modern house. Deep within their skull, the brainstem serves as the command center for these survival overrides. It handles the fight, flight, or freeze responses with an efficiency that bypasses the slower, contemplative parts of the brain entirely. This is why a cat can seemingly defy gravity to escape a falling object or strike a serpent-like toy before you even realized you've moved it. The conscious mind, the part that recognizes your face or decides where to sleep, is effectively a passenger during these moments of high-speed reaction. Yet, to dismiss them as purely instinctual creatures would be a grave error. Surrounding that primitive core is a highly developed cerebral cortex, the seat of problem-solving and memory. It is here that they map the layout of their territory, remember exactly where the treats are hidden, and manipulate their owners with specific vocalizations. They possess a form of object permanence and a working memory that rivals that of some primates, allowing them to solve mechanical puzzles like door handles or latch systems if given enough motivation. This cognitive power, however, is entirely dependent on the information it receives. To make these split-second decisions, the feline brain requires a constant stream of high-fidelity data, far more detailed than our own senses provide. They don't just see or hear the world, they absorb it through a sensory array that borders on the supernatural, detecting vibrations and frequencies that exist in a layer of reality completely hidden from human perception. This sensory superiority is perhaps most striking when we consider the physics of light itself, for the feline visual cortex is engineered to function in an entirely different luminous reality than our own. While humans are diurnal creatures, adapted to the bright, shadowless clarity of the midday sun, the cat is a creature of the twilight, dawn, and dusk, possessing a biological advantage that turns dimness into daylight. This capability is anchored by a specialized layer of tissue lying just behind the retina, called the tapetum lucidum, a Latin phrase that translates beautifully to shining carpet. This structure acts as a retroreflector, functioning much like a mirror positioned behind the light-receiving cells of the eye. When a photon of light enters a cat's eye and misses a photoreceptor cell on the first pass, the tapetum lucidum reflects it back into the retina, giving the sensory cells a second chance to absorb the information. This double exposure system is what grants them their distinctive eye shine, that eerie glowing luminescence you see when a beam of light hits a cat's face in a darkened room. It is not merely a reflection, It is visual amplification in action, allowing them to see clearly in conditions that require only 1/6 of the light level necessary for human vision. While we might stumble blindly through a moonless house, a cat navigates the same space with the precision of a tactical instrument, their eyes harvesting every stray photon to construct a coherent image of their surroundings. This sensitivity, however, comes with a trade-off in the realm of color. The human eye is packed with cone cells, responsible for distinguishing a vast spectrum of hues, but the feline eye is dominated by rod cells, which excel at low light detection and motion tracking rather than color vibrancy. Because they possess fewer cone cells, their chromatic world is vastly different from ours, leading scientists to conclude that cats possess dichromatic vision. Their reality is painted largely in hues of blue and yellowish green, similar to a human who is red-green colorblind. The bright red of a laser pointer or a rose does not appear red to them, but likely manifests as a dull shade of yellow or gray. They live in a pastel landscape, less vibrant but far more sensitive to contrast and movement, which brings up a fascinating behavior many owners witness. I'm curious if you have ever caught your cat staring intently at a blank wall or an empty corner, tracking a movement seemingly invisible to you. Let me know if you have a story about their phantom watching habits, as it speaks directly to this unique visual architecture. That intense stare is often directed at things we simply cannot resolve, because while their color vision is muted, their ability to detect rapid motion is superior. The high density of rod cells allows their visual cortex to process images at a faster frame rate than humans, meaning they can perceive the flicker of a fluorescent light or the rapid wing beat of a moth that appears as a mere blur to us. This motion sensitivity is paired with a field of view that wraps further around the head. While humans possess a peripheral range of about 180 degrees, the placement of a cat's large forward-facing eyes grants them a panoramic view of 200 degrees. They can monitor the movement of prey or a predator approaching from the side long before a human would notice the intrusion. Yet, despite this panoramic and night-piercing prowess, the feline eye struggles with what we call visual acuity or sharpness. If perfect human vision is 20/20, a cat's vision is estimated to be anywhere from 2100 to 2200. This means that what a human can clearly distinguish at 100 feet, a cat needs to be within 20 feet to see with equal focus. They are naturally nearsighted, evolved to focus on the immediate pounce range of 2 to 6 meters. Anything closer than 25 centimeters actually becomes blurry, which explains why a cat might lose track of a treat placed directly under her chin. At that proximity, they are effectively blind to the stationary object, relying instead on their whiskers to feel what their eyes can no longer focus on. Their visual cortex is not designed for reading fine print or admiring distant horizons, but for the immediate, explosive geometry of the hunt, prioritizing the detection of movement over the clarity of the form itself. This prioritization of motion over detail ensures that even when the world is a blur of shadows, nothing that moves escapes their notice. This specific sensitivity is wired predominantly for the horizontal plane. The feline visual cortex contains a high density of neurons that respond exclusively to lateral movement, the specific trajectory of a scurrying mouse or a lizard darting across the ground, prioritizing this directional cue over vertical motion or static detail. It creates a visual experience where the background environment is merely a stage setting, and the moving object is the only actor under the spotlight. This is why a cat may walk directly past a stationary toy mouse in the hallway without a second glance, effectively viewing it as part of the floor. Yet the same toy twitches or slides an inch, triggers an immediate and intense predatory lock. Their brain is not ignoring the object out of disinterest. It is simply filtering out non-essential static data to conserve processing power for the hunt. Once that movement is detected, the feline eye must maintain a razor-sharp image as the distance to the target closes. This requires a rapid physiological process called accommodation, the ability of the lens to change shape to focus on objects at varying distances. Cats possess a highly flexible lens and strong ciliary muscles that allow them to switch focus between distant prey and near obstacles with a speed that outpaces the human eye. This rapid autofocus ensures that a bird flying through branches remains crisp and defined as the cat maneuvers through the underbrush below. However, this masterful vision has a surprising limitation directly in front of their face. Because their eyes are so large and set forward for depth perception, cats possess a distinct blind spot right under their nose and chin. They are functionally farsighted, meaning they cannot bring objects into focus if they are closer than about 10 inches.
This explains the common phenomenon of a cat sniffing frantically for a treat that is sitting directly on the floor between their front paws. In this specific zone, their brain abandons visual input entirely and switches dominance to the whiskers, using tactile feedback to construct a mental image of what they cannot see, effectively feeling the shape and location of the item to compensate for their visual gap. The intensity of their focus is also physically signaled through the pupils. While the vertical slit is famous for regulating light, the dilation of a cat's pupil is heavily linked to their emotional and mental state. When the feline mind detects a target, the autonomic nervous system triggers an adrenaline response that forces the pupils to expand into wide black saucers, regardless of how bright the room is. This dilation is an effort to gather every possible photon of data for the imminent strike, signaling a brain that has shifted from passive observation to high-alert calculation, processing speed, distance, and trajectory in a single adrenaline-fueled moment. Yet, long before the pupils dilate or the muscles bunch for a pounce, the hunt has already begun within the auditory cortex, which constructs a three-dimensional map of the environment far more detailed than what the eyes alone can provide. While humans rely heavily on sight, a cat exists in a vibrant sphere of sound that remains completely invisible to us, navigating a landscape defined by frequencies we can barely imagine. Their hearing range is an evolutionary marvel designed not for social communication, but for the precise detection of the ultrasonic. While the human ear generally stops processing sound at around 20,000 hertz, and even dogs top out near 45,000, a cat's hearing extends upward to 64,000 hertz, capturing a spectrum of noise that fills the air with information we simply delete. This specific range is not arbitrary. It evolved to overlap perfectly with the high-frequency chatter of rodents and the ultrasonic rustling of small prey moving through underbrush, signals that are effectively silent to the human ear but ring out like sirens in the feline mind. To capture these faint high-frequency signals, the cat uses an anatomical design that functions much like a sophisticated radar dish. The external ear, or pinna, acts as a funnel to amplify sound waves as they travel toward the eardrum, increasing the cat's sensitivity to specific pitches. This structure is controlled by 32 individual muscles, a staggering number compared to the 6 muscles humans possess, which most of us cannot even use. These muscles allow for independent rotation of up to 180 degrees, letting a cat swivel one ear forward to focus on a visual target, while the other rotates backward to monitor for threats approaching from behind. This movement is not just about gathering volume, it is a critical component of triangulation.
The brain analyzes the minute difference in arrival time of a sound wave hitting the left ear versus the right ear, a difference measured in microseconds, to pinpoint the exact source of a noise. This processing is so rapid and precise that a cat can locate the source of a noise within 5 degrees of accuracy, even in total darkness, allowing them to strike at prey they cannot see with terrifying precision. This auditory acuity is paired with a sophisticated ability to filter and categorize complex sound patterns, distinguishing between meaningful data and white noise. You may have wondered how your cat can sleep through loud music or a thunderstorm, but wakes instantly at the sound of a treat bag crinkling 3 rooms away. This is because their brain is constantly filtering the auditory landscape, discarding irrelevant background noise while remaining hyper-alert to specific acoustic signatures. They can distinguish the unique engine vibration of their owner's car from hundreds of others passing on the street, or identify the specific heavy cadence of footsteps that signal a vet visit versus the lighter steps that signal dinner. This selectivity also explains why the sound of a human whispering "ps ps ps" is so universally effective at grabbing a cat's attention. To us, it's a silly noise, but to the feline auditory cortex, that sharp staccato frequency mimics the sound of a distressed rodent or insect, triggering an involuntary instinctive spike in attention. It creates a sudden jarring note in their mental map, overriding their current focus and forcing the brain to investigate the potential presence of prey, proving that even in a domestic setting, their sensory world is still dominated by the ancient rhythms of the hunt. This dominance is built into the architecture of their skull, housing an olfactory system so sophisticated that it makes human capability seem rudimentary by comparison. While a human nose contains roughly 5 million scent receptors, a cat possesses up to 200 million, a staggering difference in biological hardware that transforms how they perceive reality. To accommodate this massive array of sensors, the olfactory epithelium, the specialized tissue inside the nose, is folded over and over again like a complex accordion inside the nasal cavity. If you were to smooth out a human's olfactory tissue, it might cover the surface area of a postage stamp, whereas a cat's would unfold to the size of a large handkerchief, providing a vast landscape dedicated entirely to chemical analysis. This sensory input feeds into an olfactory bulb that takes up a significant portion of their brain's volume, occupying a far larger percentage of cranial mass than the visual processing centers used by humans. This means that for a cat, scent is not merely a background sensation or a pleasant aroma, but a high-fidelity stream of data that constitutes their primary version of the truth. When a cat walks into a room, they are not just smelling odors, they are reading a detailed 3-dimensional map of recent history. They can distinguish individual components within a complex mixture that a human would perceive as a single smell, deconstructing a bowl of food into its distinct ingredients, or analyzing the specific chemical markers left by a visitor hours after they have departed, effectively reading the room's biography through the air. This analytical power is deeply entwined with their emotional processing, as the neural pathways for scent travel directly to the amygdala and hippocampus, the brain's centers for emotion and memory. This direct hardline explains why a change in environment can be so stressful for them, as a new home with new smells is effectively a blank map to their senses, devoid of the chemical signposts that signal safety. It also explains the curious habit many cats have of sleeping on their owner's discarded clothing or nesting in laundry baskets. They are not seeking comfort in the texture of the fabric, but are immersing themselves in a concentrated cloud of familiar pheromones, essentially wrapping themselves in a scent that triggers a biological response of security and belonging. Beyond identification and emotional grounding, this olfactory computer serves as a precise chronometer, allowing them to perceive the passage of time in a way we struggle to comprehend. As odor molecules react with oxygen and dissipate, their chemical composition changes at a predictable rate, a phenomenon known as scent decay. A cat entering a room can sniff a footprint or a mark on the wall and determine not just who was there, but exactly how long ago they stood at that spot. This biological clock allows them to anticipate routines with uncanny accuracy, such as waiting by the door minutes before an owner arrives. They aren't reading a clock face or sensing a psychic connection. They are detecting that the concentration of your scent near the doorway has faded to the specific level that usually coincides with your return, essentially smelling that the workday is over. But this ability to smell the passage of time is primarily the function of the nose you can see, the cute, wet triangle on the front of their face. Yet, to truly understand the depth of a cat's sensory world, we must acknowledge that they are effectively operating two completely separate olfactory systems simultaneously. Deep inside the nasal cavity, tucked away above the hard palate of the roof of the mouth, lies a specialized structure that acts as a second nose, known as the vomeronasal organ or Jacobson's organ. This secret sensory tool is named after the Danish anatomist Ludvig Levin Jakobsen, who explored it, though cats have been using it for millions of years to decode messages that are completely invisible to the human experience. If you were to look closely at the roof of a cat's mouth, just behind their upper front incisors, you would see a small raised bump of tissue called the incisive papilla. Within this tiny mound are two microscopic ducts that lead upward, connecting the oral cavity directly to the vomeronasal organ. It is a fluid-filled sac lined with receptor cells that are distinct from those found in the main nose, designed to pick up heavier, non-volatile chemical compounds that do not float in the air as easily as ordinary odors. This anatomical bridge explains one of the most amusing and frequently misunderstood behaviors in the feline repertoire. We have all seen a cat pause mid-stride, investigate a specific spot on the carpet, a shoe, or a fellow cat, and suddenly lift their head with their mouth hanging slightly open and their upper lip curled back in a strange, fixed grimace. To human observers, it looks like a look of profound disgust, as if they have just smelled something terrible, earning it the affectionate nickname, the stink face. However, this behavior is actually a deliberate mechanical process called the phlegm response, derived from a German word referring to the baring of the upper teeth. When a cat performs this distinct facial movement, they are not recoiling in judgment, they are engaging a pump mechanism. By curling the lip and opening the mouth, they physically open those tiny ducts behind the teeth and restrict their normal breathing to prevent air from rushing through the nose. Often, they will use their tongue to flick microscopic scent particles upward, pressing them against the roof of the mouth to transfer the chemical data directly into the Jacobson organ. It is a moment of intense trance-like concentration, a way of tasting the air to extract a heavy, moisture-borne layer of information that a regular sniff simply cannot catch. This information is fundamentally different from the aromas of roasted chicken or fresh laundry. While the main nose detects volatile odors that trigger memories or appetite, Jacobson's organ is exclusively tuned to pheromones, complex chemical cocktails left behind by other animals. What makes this system truly fascinating is its neurological wiring. The nerves from this organ do not travel to the main olfactory bulb where ordinary smells are processed. Instead, they travel along a separate neural superhighway to the accessory olfactory bulb, which is hardwired directly to the amygdala and the hypothalamus. This means the data effectively bypasses the conscious analytical part of the cat's brain and plugs straight into the ancient centers responsible for emotional, hormonal, and instinctual reactions. When a cat uses this organ, they are not just smelling a scent, they are downloading a detailed biological profile of whoever walked there before. They can instantly determine the gender, reproductive status, dominance level, and even the stress levels of another cat. It transforms a simple urine mark or a cheek rub on a doorframe into a vibrant, high-definition biography, allowing cats to communicate vast amounts of data without ever seeing one another. maintaining a complex social network through chemical notes left in the night. While scent creates a map of the social landscape, the physical landscape requires a different kind of precision, particularly when the sun goes down and visual cues fade into the shadows. This brings us to the cat's most distinct facial feature, often mistaken for coarse hair, but functioning more like a high-tech biological radar system. These are the vibrissae, a term derived from the Latin word for vibration, and they are engineered completely differently from the fur that coats the rest of the body. Each whisker is thicker, stiffer, and embedded 3 times deeper into the skin than ordinary hair, anchored securely in a follicle surrounded by a blood-filled sinus. This blood-filled sinus acts as a hydraulic amplifier, magnifying even the slightest movement of the stiff hair shaft and transmitting that physical data to a rich bed of proprioceptors and nerve endings at the base. This sensory array is vital because cats actually struggle to see things clearly within roughly 30 centimeters of their face. Their eyes are optimized for distance and motion, leaving a blurry blind spot right under their nose. To compensate, the whiskers swivel forward during hunting, forming a sensory basket that envelops the prey. This allows the cat to determine the exact position and texture of the target for the final precise bite, relying on tactile feedback rather than vision. Beyond solid objects, these receptors are sensitive enough to read the air itself. They can detect subtle changes in air currents and atmospheric pressure, allowing a cat to sense the movement of a passing object before it touches them, or to navigate around obstacles by feeling the way air flows around furniture in a pitch-black room. This explains why a cat can run full tilt through a cluttered house at midnight without colliding with a single object. The whiskers also serve as a width gauge, typically growing to a span that matches the width of the cat's body. If the whiskers bend while poking into a burrow or a gap in a fence, the cat receives an immediate warning that its shoulders will not fit, preventing it from getting stuck. However, this extreme sensitivity comes with a notable drawback known as whisker fatigue. Because every contact sends a signal to the brain, constant stimulation can become overwhelming. When a cat is forced to eat from a deep, narrow bowl where its whiskers constantly brush against the rim, the barrage of sensory data can cause significant stress. This sensory overload is often the reason a cat might scoop food onto the floor with a paw or pace restlessly in front of a full bowl, seeking a way to eat without the exhausting noise of tactile overstimulation. Once the food actually enters the mouth, the cat's reality diverges sharply from our own human experience. While we might indulge in a sweet treat before bed, the feline brain is entirely indifferent to the concept of sugar. This is not a matter of preference, but of hard-coded genetics. Every domestic cat carries a specific deletion in the gene known as TAS1R2, which in most mammals creates the receptor necessary to identify sweetness. Without this receptor, sugar is essentially invisible to their palate, a tasteless additive that the brain simply ignores. This evolutionary edit highlights their status as obligate carnivores, animals so specialized for hunting that nature eventually discarded the genetic tools required to detect plant-based carbohydrates. But nature rarely takes away a sense without sharpening another. In place of a sweet tooth, the cat possesses a highly specialized sensitivity to adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. This is the molecule that supplies energy to living cells, and for a cat, it appears to have a distinct, perceptible flavor profile. When they bite into meat, they are literally tasting the chemical signal of energy, allowing their brain to instantly gauge the quality and freshness of their meal, a sensory lane that humans simply do not have access to. This biological demand for freshness also dictates their complex relationship with temperature. You may have noticed that a cat will often refuse food taken directly from the refrigerator, only to eat it happily once it has warmed to room temperature. This behavior is rooted in the instinct to avoid carrion. In the wild, safe food is freshly caught prey, which would have a body temperature of roughly 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Cold food signals to the feline brain that the meal has been dead for too long and may harbor bacteria, triggering a rejection response that owners often mistake for stubbornness. Texture plays an equally critical role in this safety assessment, largely due to the unique anatomy of the feline tongue. Covered with filiform papillae, tiny backward-facing spines made of keratin, the tongue is a tool designed for shearing flesh. Because the mouth is so mechanically complex, the physical sensation of food against these spines is a primary way the cat determines edibility. This heavy reliance on touch creates a phenomenon known as neophobia, or the fear of new things.
If a cat is not exposed to a specific texture, be it wet pâté, dry kibble, or chunks of meat, during the critical window of kittenhood, their adult brain may not recognize that texture as food at all. It is not that they dislike the flavor, but rather that the tactile input does not match their internal blueprint for what is safe to swallow. This reliance on a pre-existing sensory map extends far beyond the mouth, governing how the feline mind navigates the laws of physics itself. If you were to look deep inside the cat's skull, specifically within the inner ear, you would find the biological machinery responsible for their supernatural grace. This is the vestibular system, a complex arrangement of fluid-filled tubes and chambers that functions as a high-precision gyroscope. While humans have a similar system, the feline version is tuned to a level of sensitivity that borders on precognition. Deep within the temporal bone, there are 3 semicircular canals, each oriented at right angles to the others, corresponding to the 3 dimensions of space: up and down, left and right, forward and backward. Inside these canals flows a fluid called endolymph, which moves whenever the cat moves its head. Tiny hair cells detect this fluid's displacement and send instantaneous electrical signals to the brain, telling the cat exactly where it is in relation to gravity. This happens so quickly that the brain can issue a correction to the muscles before the cat is even consciously aware that it has lost its balance. This neural superhighway is the secret behind the famous righting reflex, the ability that allows a cat to land on its feet even when dropped upside down. The reflex is not learned behavior in the traditional sense. It begins to develop in kittens as young as 3 weeks old and is fully perfected by 7 weeks. When a cat falls, the vestibular apparatus immediately signals that the body is inverted. The process that follows is a marvel of both neurology and physics. First, the cat rotates its head to face upright, locking its eyes on the horizon. This visual lock stabilizes the rest of the movement. Next, the brain triggers a twisting motion in the spine. Because cats have highly flexible backbones with more vertebrae than humans and remarkably loose connections between vertebrae, they can twist their bodies up to 180 degrees in opposite directions simultaneously. This allows them to overcome the law of conservation of angular momentum, which states that a body cannot start spinning without pushing off something. The cat cheats this law by essentially acting as 2 separate halves. It tucks its front paws in close to reduce its moment of inertia, allowing the front half of the body to spin quickly. At the same time, it splays its rear legs out to increase resistance, acting as an anchor. Once the front half is upright, the cat extends its front paws to stop the rotation and tucks the rear legs to whip the back half around. This entire complex sequence of geometry and physics is calculated and executed by the feline brain in a fraction of a second, often allowing them to right themselves in a fall of less than 3 feet. This mastery over gravity applies equally when they are upright. Walking along the top of a narrow fence or a trembling tree branch requires a constant stream of micro-calculations.
Here, the tail acts as a dynamic counterbalance. If the cat teeters to the left, the brain automatically swings the heavy tail to the right, shifting the center of mass back to the safe zone. This makes the cat's tail not just an expressive limb, but a vital instrument of navigation, constantly communicating with the inner ear to maintain equilibrium in precarious situations. While the tail serves as a silent instrument of physical balance, the cat's voice has evolved into a sophisticated tool for social leverage, specifically tuned to navigate the complex relationship with the human species. It is a common misconception that the meow is a universal feline language, but in the wild, adult cats rarely meow at one another. If you were to observe a feral colony interacting in the moonlight, you would find them largely silent, communicating almost exclusively through scent, body posture, and slow blinks. The meow is in reality a form of evolutionary neoteny, the retention of juvenile traits into adulthood. In nature, kittens meow to alert their mothers to hunger or cold, but the behavior typically ceases once they are weaned. Domestic cats, however, realized thousands of years ago that humans are a vocal species who often miss subtle olfactory or visual cues. To bridge this communication gap, they extended their kittenhood vocalizations into maturity, developing a pigeon language reserved almost exclusively for their human caretakers. This adaptation goes deeper than simple attention seeking. It has evolved into a precise method of psychological manipulation. Researchers have identified a specific vocalization known as the solicitation purr, which is markedly different from the low rhythmic rumble of a content cat. When a cat is seeking food or attention, the purr shifts to include a high-frequency component, a sharp harmonic overtone that occurs in the 220 to 520 Hz range. This specific frequency mirrors the distress cry of a human infant. By embedding this distress cry within the soothing purr, the cat hijacks the human brain's innate caregiving response. While a normal purr lowers our blood pressure and induces relaxation, the solicitation purr triggers a subtle sense of urgency and low-level anxiety in the human listener, making the sound nearly impossible to ignore and compelling the owner to meet the cat's demands simply to stop the noise. Beyond these requests, the feline vocal repertoire is surprisingly diverse, containing sounds that serve specific biological functions. The hiss, for example, is unrelated to the vocal cords used for meowing. It is an expelling of air that is widely believed to be a form of Batesian mimicry.
When a cat feels threatened, it flattens its ears, bares its fangs, and emits a sound indistinguishable from a venomous snake, effectively borrowing the intimidation factor of a reptile to deter predators. At the other end of the spectrum is the chatter, a rapid clicking sound, often made while staring at birds through a window. This behavior, sometimes called vacuum activity, is thought to be an involuntary rehearsal of the kill bite, mimicking the precise jaw movements required to sever the spinal cord of prey, triggered by the visual overstimulation of seeing a target they cannot reach. A slow, metronomic swish is a sign of internal conflict, perhaps the brain attempting to decide between staying on a warm lap or investigating a noise in the kitchen, manifesting as physical irritation. When the sympathetic nervous system detects a sudden threat, the erector pili muscles at the base of each hair follicle contract simultaneously, causing the tail to puff up to double its size, a bluffing mechanism designed to trick a predator into thinking the cat is larger than it truly is. This potential for misinterpretation extends to the belly. When a cat rolls onto their back, exposing the soft fur of their abdomen, they are displaying the highest level of trust their brain can formulate, revealing their most vulnerable area where all vital organs reside to a creature capable of hurting them. However, this is almost never a request for a massage. In the wild, this posture is also a defensive trap, allowing the cat to liberate all 4 sets of claws and their teeth to fight upward against an aggressor.
When you touch the belly and get bitten, you have simply misread a sign of social deference as an invitation for contact. I'm curious if you have ever fallen for this fluffy trap, mistaking a show of trust for a request for a belly rub. Let me know in the comments what body language signals you've noticed your own feline friends using most often. From the tail, the signal travels to the other end of the animal, where the ears act as arguably the most precise radar dishes in the animal kingdom. Controlled by 32 individual muscles in each ear, compared to the mere 6 found in humans, this musculature allows for independent rotation of 180 degrees. Forward-facing ears indicate a brain that is engaged and confident, filtering information with ease. When the ears swivel sideways, often called airplane ears, the cat is feeling anxious or irritated, effectively tuning out the noise to focus on a potential threat. If the ears flatten completely against the skull, the cat has entered a state of extreme fear or aggression, tucking these delicate organs away to protect the cartilage from the claws of an opponent during a potential scuffle. In stark contrast to these defensive postures, the eyes offer a completely different vocabulary of trust. In the predatory world, a direct, unblinking stare is almost always a declaration of hostility or a sign of hunting. It is the look a predator fixes upon prey seconds before the strike. Consequently, a cat that holds your gaze with wide, unmoving eyes might not be admiring you, but rather assessing a potential threat or challenging your dominance. This evolutionary context is exactly what makes the slow blink so profound. When a feline looks at you and deliberately narrows their eyelids, pausing briefly in a half-closed state, they are engaging in a voluntary act of vulnerability. By breaking visual contact, they are signaling that they do not view you as a danger, and more importantly, they trust that you will not attack them while their guard is down. Researchers often refer to this gesture as a cat kiss, and studies have confirmed that cats are significantly more likely to approach and interact with humans who initiate this slow blinking sequence first. It explains the irony of why cats often gravitate toward the one person in the room who is ignoring them. By not staring, that person is inadvertently signaling non-aggression, making them the safest prospect for interaction. Moving from the eyes to physical contact, we find a behavior known scientifically as allo rubbing. This is when a cat firmly bumps their head against your hand, your shin, or even your face. While it feels like a simple demand for petting or a sign of affection, it is primarily a mechanism of chemical communication and territorial ownership. A cat's head is mapped with scent glands located on the temples, the corners of the mouth, and along the chin. When they bunt against you, they are depositing facial pheromones to mark you as safe and familiar. In the wild, feral colonies use this rubbing behavior to create a communal group scent, effectively blending their individual identities into a shared family odor. By rubbing against you, they are not merely saying hello, they are claiming you as their property and integrating you into the tribe's specific olfactory profile. However, this desire for closeness rarely extends to the human practice of hugging. While primates naturally use embracing as a primary bonding mechanism, felines generally interpret it as a threat. Being wrapped in arms immobilizes a cat's legs and compresses its body, effectively removing its ability to flee instantly if danger arises. For a species that relies on speed, agility, and the ability to right themselves in midair for survival, the sensation of being held tight often triggers a fight or flight response rather than a feeling of safety. This creates a frequent communication gap where a human attempts to express love through a hug and the cat interprets the gesture as a trap. Most cats prefer affection that allows them to keep their paws on the ground or leaves them a clear exit route, ensuring they retain their autonomy while enjoying the social bond. To a cat, however, the concept of ownership and safety extends far beyond their immediate physical reach. It radiates outward, constructed not by walls and doors, but by a complex, invisible architecture of scent. When a cat enters a room, they are essentially reading the daily news of their territory, checking for intruders and confirming that their safe zone remains intact.
This map is meticulously maintained through a network of scent glands located on specific parts of their body, acting as the ink for their cartography. The most commonly observed are the sebaceous glands found on the lips, chin, cheeks, and the base of the ears. When you observe a cat rubbing their face against a door frame or the corner of a coffee table, a behavior known as bunting, they're depositing a specific chemical signature known as the facial pheromone. This is a calming note to their future self that effectively says, "I have been here, this is mine, and it is safe." This creates a pathway of comfort throughout the house, allowing them to move from room to room within a bubble of reassurance. They also possess glands along their flanks and at the base of the tail, allowing them to wind around your legs to envelop you in their specific group scent. The paws, however, play a more assertive role in this territorial mapping. Between the paw pads lie interdigital glands that release a stronger, more permanent marker. When a cat scratches a vertical post or the fabric of a chair, they are engaging in a sophisticated dual-modality communication. The physical shredding serves as a lasting visual signal, a flag planted in the landscape, while the scent left behind reinforces that boundary on a chemical level. It is a way of claiming space that persists even when the cat is sleeping in another room. Because this invisible map is so vital to their sense of security, sudden changes to the environmental scent profile can be deeply distressing. Bringing in new furniture, thoroughly steam cleaning a carpet, or even painting a wall essentially erases their carefully curated work. To the feline mind, a room that has been scrubbed clean of their scent markers is no longer their home. It is a foreign, uncharted wilderness that must be mapped all over again. This explains why a cat might pace anxiously or immediately scratch a newly bought sofa. They are not acting out of spite. They are frantically trying to rebuild the invisible walls of their sanctuary to restore their psychological stability. This intense need for control makes perfect sense when we look back at the origins of our companionship. For unlike almost every other domesticated animal, cats were never truly conquered by humans. The prevailing scientific consensus implies that cats effectively domesticated themselves, a decision that fundamentally shaped the psychology of the animal currently sleeping at the foot of your bed. This process began roughly 10,000 years ago in the Fertile Crescent, not through human design, but through a natural gravitational pull toward the granaries of early civilization. When humans transitioned from nomadic hunting to settled farming, our stockpiles of wheat and barley attracted legions of rodents, and those rodents in turn attracted the African wildcat, or Felis sylvestris libica. Humans did not go out into the brush to capture these solitary hunters and force them into cages. Rather, the cats invited themselves in. However, only the boldest among them, those with a slightly lower genetic threshold for fear, dared to venture close enough to human settlements to feast on the abundance of prey. This created a natural selection pressure where the trait being selected for was not obedience or utility, but simply the ability to tolerate our presence without fleeing. Biologists refer to this early phase as a commensal relationship, a term derived from the Latin for sharing a table, describing a biological interaction where one species benefits while the other is neither harmed nor significantly helped. We tolerated them because they were useful pest control, and they tolerated us because we created an ecosystem rich in food. Because this relationship was built on mutual tolerance rather than forced labor, the genetic drift between a wildcat and a modern house cat is shockingly small. If you look at the genome of a dog, it is a chaotic departure from the wolf, reshaped by centuries of breeding for specific shapes and tasks. But the DNA of a modern tabby is nearly identical to that of the ancient wildcat prowling the savanna. They are, in essence, wild animals that have decided to be small and friendly. Yet, despite this genetic preservation, their brains have undergone subtle, fascinating shifts to bridge the gap between species.
One of the most remarkable discoveries in feline cognition is their ability to understand human referential gestures, specifically pointing. If you point a finger at a bowl of food, a wolf, even one raised by hand, will usually stare at your finger. It does not understand the social cue. A cat, however, will look where you are pointing. This seems simple, but it requires a sophisticated level of social intelligence known as theory of mind, the understanding that another being has a perspective and is trying to communicate information. This ability suggests that while they remain solitary hunters at heart, they have rewired their social cognition to include us as valid partners in their world. They are not merely living alongside us, they are reading us, interpreting our intent, and hacking our social signals to secure their comfort. It's a psychological balancing act where the instincts of a desert predator coexist with the social savvy of a dependent companion, leaving us with a creature that is simultaneously a fierce, independent spirit and a master of human emotional manipulation. This capability relies heavily on a memory system that is far more sophisticated than the simple instinct-driven reactions we often attribute to animals. To manipulate an outcome effectively, one must first remember the specific actions that yield results. And in this regard, the feline mind is a vault of precise and enduring data. When we examine the science of working memory, the ability to hold a piece of information in the mind and use it to solve a problem, the results are startlingly impressive. While cognitive studies on dogs suggest their short-term memory for hidden objects or specific events lasts roughly a few minutes before the information degrades or is replaced by new stimuli, research indicates that a cat's working memory can persist for up to 16 hours. This means that if a cat spots a potential prey animal scurrying into a specific burrow, or watches you place a favorite toy on a high shelf before you leave for work, that information remains active and accessible for the better part of a day. They do not forget the object exists simply because it has left their visual field. They merely file the location away, waiting for the opportune moment to return when the coast is clear. This retention extends into what psychologists call episodic memory, which acts as a type of mental autobiography, allowing them to recall the what, where, and when of specific life events. It is why a cat can navigate a complex territory in pitch darkness, recalling the exact placement of furniture, trees, and obstacles they mapped out weeks ago. They are not just reacting to the immediate environment, but overlaying their current sensory input with a detailed, recalled map of their world. Do you have a specific memory of your cat seemingly holding a grudge or remembering a hidden treat from days ago that surprised you? This episodic recall is particularly potent when attached to strong emotions, specifically regarding self-preservation. Evolution has wired the solitary predator to practice what is known as one-trial learning regarding danger. While a dog might happily return to a place where it got spooked if its owner is there to offer reassurance, a cat often retains the memory of a negative experience for a lifetime. This is most evident in the universal phenomenon of the cat carrier. You may only bring the carrier out once a year for an annual checkup, yet the moment the plastic door creaks open or the latch clicks, the cat vanishes. They are not reacting to the carrier as a neutral object, but to the retrieved episodic memory of the antiseptic smells, the strange sounds, and the physical sensations of the veterinary clinic that the object represents. This long-term retention serves a critical survival function, ensuring they never make the same mistake twice. Interestingly, this durability of memory applies differently to learning new skills. Because they are efficient learners, cats often find repetitive drills tedious and unnecessary. If they solve a puzzle to get a treat, such as opening a latch or knocking over a container, they learn the mechanism almost immediately. Repeating the task 20 times does not necessarily reinforce the behavior as it does with a pack animal seeking approval. Instead, it often leads to visible boredom, as the cat has already retained the information and sees no purpose in proving it over and over. Their memory is strictly utilitarian, discarding the trivial to save space for the tactical information that ensures their survival, comfort, and independence. This utilitarian approach to memory is perhaps most powerfully applied to their physical environment. A cat does not simply remember where the food bowl is placed. They construct a highly complex three-dimensional cognitive map of their entire territory. Unlike humans who primarily navigate the world on a horizontal plane, a cat's mental map is vertically integrated. When they enter a room, they are not just scanning the floor space, they are instantly calculating the geometry of height, assessing the stability of shelves, the texture of curtains, and the distance between the sofa arm and the window ledge. This mental blueprint is etched with such metric precision that a cat can navigate your home in absolute darkness without hesitating. They memorize the exact placement of obstacles to the millimeter, allowing them to execute high-speed maneuvers with no conscious thought. This is why if you move a favorite chair or place a box in a hallway they usually sprint down, they may stop abruptly or move with exaggerated caution. It is not that they cannot see the change, but rather that the physical reality no longer aligns with the deep-seated schematic they have relied on for rapid automatic movement. They are effectively updating the file in their brain to account for the new variable. This spatial mastery is driven by a biological imperative to secure high ground. In the wild, height represents both safety from larger predators and a vantage point for spotting prey. Your cat's obsession with the top of the refrigerator is merely a quirk. It is a strategic maneuver derived from this spatial programming. They identify safe zones and vertical escape routes long before they ever need them, ensuring that if a threat appears, the decision to jump is already made before the conscious mind even registers the danger. However, this navigation skill extends far beyond the walls of a house. The feline ability to navigate over vast, unfamiliar distances is one of the most enduring mysteries in animal behavior, often referred to as psi trailing. There are countless documented accounts of cats traveling hundreds of miles to return to a former home after a move, traversing highways, rivers, and forests they have never seen before. Even more baffling are the cases where a cat manages to locate their owner at a completely new location where the animal has never been. To explain this, biologists look to the concept of magnetoreception. Much like migratory birds and sea turtles, it is believed that cats possess a sensitivity to the Earth's magnetic fields. Small traces of iron have been discovered in the tissues of the cat's inner ear and brain, which may function as a biological compass, allowing them to orient themselves north and south regardless of visual landmarks. While we rely on street signs and GPS satellites, a cat may be feeling the very pull of the planet's poles, guiding them across the landscape with an invisible tether.
This internal compass ensures that even when they wander far from safety, they retain a persistent magnetic sense of where they belong. This sophisticated internal mapping system extends beyond the physical landscape and into the realm of abstract thought, specifically concerning how a cat processes the existence of things they cannot currently see. In the study of psychology, this capability is known as object permanence, a cognitive milestone that human infants usually do not reach until they are nearly a year old. For a very young baby, if you hide a toy behind your back, it effectively ceases to exist. For a cat, however, the world does not disappear simply because it falls out of view. When a toy mouse slides under the sofa or a laser pointer dot vanishes behind a chair, the cat understands that the object still occupies space in reality, waiting to be rediscovered. This is an evolutionary necessity for a predator.
If a prey animal scurries into a burrow or behind a fallen log, the hunter must retain the mental image of that prey and predict its future movement without visual confirmation. This ability to hold a mental representation of the invisible is what allows them to wait with such focused patience outside a mouse hole, fully confident that the prize is still there despite the lack of immediate sensory evidence. While they master the permanence of objects, their perception of time is a more complex, fluid experience that differs fundamentally from our own linear obsession with clocks and schedules. Cats do not view time as a narrative story of past, present, and future, but rather as a series of biological rhythms and environmental cues. They possess a highly accurate internal clock, regulated by circadian rhythms that track the cycles of light and dark, as well as the physiological sensation of hunger. This is why a cat often knows it is dinner time long before you hear the clock chime. They are reading the angle of the shadows on the floor, the specific drop in temperature as evening approaches, and the predictable spike in their own metabolic hormones. They become experts in the rhythm of the household, memorizing the specific sequence of sounds that precede an event. They learn that the sound of a particular drawer opening means food, or the jingle of keys means isolation, effectively predicting the future based on immediate sensory triggers rather than a conceptual understanding of 5 p.m. However, this acute focus on the immediate present creates a unique barrier when it comes to the concept of discipline or punishment. Because a cat's mind is anchored firmly in the now, they struggle to connect a past action with a present consequence if the two events are separated by more than a few seconds. If a cat scratches the furniture and is reprimanded 20 minutes later, they physically cannot bridge the gap between the act of scratching and the angry tone of their human. Instead of understanding that scratching caused the scolding, they interpret the punishment as a random, frightening event associated with the human's current presence. This is why delayed discipline often results in a cat that is fearful of its owner, rather than a cat that learns to stop a behavior. To the feline mind, the punishment is not a consequence of their past mistake, but a confusing, aggressive outburst occurring in their present reality, completely detached from the overturned vase in the other room. Their world is one of immediate associations, where cause and effect must be instantly linked to register as a lesson learned. This reliance on the present moment creates a unique approach to problem solving that favors observation over chaotic trial and error. When a cat encounters a new obstacle, such as a complex food puzzle or closed door, they rarely rush in with frantic energy. Instead, they often engage in a period of deceptive stillness, sitting and staring at the object. To the human eye, this looks like disinterest, but it is actually a phase of intense data collection, where they are mentally mapping the physical properties of the barrier. Once this observation phase concludes, they execute their plan with a manual dexterity that sets them apart from almost all other domesticated animals. While a dog interacts with the world primarily through its mouth, a cat treats its front paws like hands. They possess an exceptional range of motion in their wrists and can articulate their toes to grip, hook, and pull. This allows them to turn doorknobs, slide open heavy drawers, or fish a specific piece of kibble out of a narrow tube. They understand the physics of leverage instinctively, often using one paw to hold a container steady while the other works to pry off the lid. This mechanical intelligence is bolstered by a surprising capacity for social learning. Although they are not pack animals, they are keen observers of effective techniques. A kitten will learn to navigate a cat door much faster if it watches an older cat go through it first. This mimicry extends to their human companions as well. Many cats have learned to operate lever-style door handles simply by watching how a human hand applies downward pressure. They analyze the cause and effect. The hand moves down, the barrier opens, and they replicate the motion with their own weight. However, this intelligence is notoriously difficult for scientists to quantify because it is paired with a stubborn independence. In laboratory settings, cats often fail standard intelligence tests that dogs pass easily, but the failure is one of compliance, not cognition. For instance, in the classic unsolvable task experiment, an animal is presented with a box containing food that cannot be opened. When a dog realizes the box is locked, it will almost immediately look to a nearby human for help, signaling a cooperative problem-solving strategy. A cat, by contrast, will almost never look to the human for assistance. They will persist in trying to open the box themselves, scratching, biting, and pawing at it long after a dog would have given up and asked for help. They do not view the human as a tool to solve their problem. They view the puzzle as a solitary challenge. This independence explains why they perform poorly in cooperation tests, such as pulling a rope simultaneously with another cat to release a treat. They understand the mechanics of the rope perfectly well, but the social concept of coordinating their efforts with a partner is foreign to their evolutionary programming as solitary hunters. However, solitary hunting does not equate to solitary living, nor does it preclude a rich, complex emotional landscape. The persistent myth that cats are emotionally aloof or indifferent to their owners has been systematically dismantled by rigorous behavioral science, revealing that their inability to pull a rope for a treat is a mechanical preference, not a social deficit. In a landmark study conducted at Oregon State University, researchers applied the same secure base tests used for human infants and dogs to felines. The results were startling to skeptics, but unsurprising to anyone who is deeply bonded with a cat. The data showed that approximately 65% of cats display a secure attachment style. When their owner returns after a brief absence, these cats greet them warmly and then return to exploring their environment, using the human as a psychological anchor. This is the exact same behavioral percentage seen in human toddlers, suggesting that the feline capacity for bonding is far deeper and biologically ingrained than their stoic exterior suggests. This depth of feeling comes with a heavy neurological cost. Because they bond so securely, the absence of their human can trigger profound distress that is frequently misunderstood. Separation anxiety in cats is often misidentified as bad behavior or spite. When a cat urinates on a bed or destroys a door frame while the owner is away, it is neurologically a panic response, not an act of revenge. Their stress hormones spike, and they engage in displacement activities to soothe themselves, such as over-grooming or frantic pacing. Unlike dogs, who miss the protection of the pack, a cat misses the specific stability and affection provided by their attachment figure. They possess an internal clock that tracks your absence, and the distress escalates the longer the routine is broken, proving that while they are solitary hunters, they are certainly not solitary souls. To understand this emotional vulnerability, we must look deeper into the biological machinery of the feline brain. Tucked within the temporal lobes lies the amygdala, the primary sentinel of the nervous system, responsible for processing fear. In the domestic cat, this almond-shaped structure operates with a hair trigger sensitivity that far exceeds the baseline found in humans. This hypersensitivity is an evolutionary necessity for a creature that occupies the unique ecological niche of the mesopredator. Because cats are both skilled hunters and potential prey for larger carnivores, their survival historically depended on reacting to the snap of a twig or a shifting shadow long before conscious thought could intervene. Consequently, their threshold for the fight or flight response is set incredibly low. When a threat is perceived, the feline amygdala bypasses the reasoning centers of the cortex, instantly flooding the bloodstream with adrenaline and cortisol. This biological alarm system explains why cats are so profoundly affected by environmental changes that might seem trivial to us. Loud, sudden noises like a vacuum cleaner or a dropped pan are not merely annoyances, they are perceived as immediate, life-threatening events. Even more distressing is the visual or olfactory presence of an interloper cat. Because felines rely heavily on scent to map their safe zones, a strange cat appearing in the garden or a new smell on your clothes challenges their sense of security at a fundamental level. It signals a breach of their fortress, triggering a state of hyperarousal that does not simply vanish the moment the threat disappears. This enduring state of physiological alarm leads to one of the most misunderstood behaviors in cat ownership: redirected aggression. You might have experienced a confusing moment where your cat, locked in a stare-down with a rival through the window, suddenly lashes out at your hand when you offer a comforting pat. This is rarely an act of malice. Physiologically, their nervous system is fully engaged in a combat sequence against the intruder outside. The adrenaline surge prepares their muscles to strike, but the window prevents the release of that energy. When you touch them, the pent-up potential has nowhere to go but toward the nearest stimulus. They are not attacking you, they are discharging a biological reflex intended for the threat they cannot reach. It can take hours for these neurochemicals to dissipate, leaving the cat on edge long after the window is empty. The cost of this high-octane defense system is substantial. When stress becomes chronic, perhaps due to a chaotic household, constant noise, or unresolved conflict with another pet, the cat's body remains bathed in corrosive stress hormones. Unlike humans, who might vocalize their anxiety, cats often suffer in silence, masking their distress until it physically overwhelms them. This long-term exposure to cortisol degrades the immune system and manifests in physical ailments that seem unrelated to the mind. Conditions like feline idiopathic cystitis, a painful bladder inflammation, are frequently caused not by bacteria, but by the neurochemical fallout of unmanaged fear. It is a somber reminder that for a cat, feeling safe is not just a psychological preference, but a strict biological requirement for physical health. Once that sense of safety is established, the feline mind pivots from preservation to preparation. What we might perceive as whimsical entertainment, sudden bursts of silly energy, or the frantic late-night activity often called the zoomies, is actually a deeply serious rehearsal for survival. To a cat, play is never just play. It is the rigorous honing of the predatory sequence, a rigid biological script that has been hardwired into their neural pathways for millions of years. This instinct is so potent that it operates independently of hunger, meaning a cat does not need an empty stomach to feel the overwhelming compulsion to hunt. When a kitten bats at a feather wand or chases a crinkled ball of paper down a hallway, they're executing a precise series of behaviors known as the predatory motor pattern. This sequence consists of distinct, non-negotiable stages: staring, stalking, chasing, pouncing, and finally, the kill bite. In the wild, this chain of events ends with a meal, but in the domestic sphere, the psychological satisfaction is derived largely from the successful completion of the mechanical cycle itself. The feline brain reinforces this behavior through a potent chemical reward system. During these mock hunts, the brain floods with dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure, learning, and motivation. Crucially, this chemical surge peaks during the anticipation of the catch, driving the cat to focus intently on the movement of their prey. It creates a powerful feedback loop where the act of hunting becomes self-rewarding. This explains why a well-fed house cat will still stalk a moth with the intensity of a starving leopard. The brain is rewarding the process and the proficiency of the hunter, not just the potential for calorie intake. However, this neurological reliance on the complete cycle reveals a hidden flaw in some popular modern toys, specifically the laser pointer. While the elusive red dot stimulates the stalking and chasing instincts with incredible efficiency, it fails to provide the critical tactile sensation of the catch. Without the physical feeling of capturing the prey under their paws and sinking their teeth into it, the dopamine loop remains open and unresolved. The brain builds up massive anticipation for a climax that never arrives. Over time, this can transform a fun game into a source of chronic psychological frustration, potentially leading to anxiety or obsessive behaviors as the cat searches for closure that the intangible light cannot provide. To mitigate this, behaviorists often suggest tossing a physical toy or a treat to the cat at the very end of a laser session, allowing the brain to register a successful kill and flush the system of that built-up tension. Even as the body ages, this mental craving for the hunt remains remarkably intact. The play drive does not vanish, it merely economizes. While an elderly cat may sleep for the vast majority of the day and suffer from stiff joints, the sudden sight of a skittering object can still trigger that ancient predatory circuit. The movements may become more subtle, a twitching tail, a dilated pupil, or a quick bat of a paw rather than a full-body pounce, but the psychological engagement is identical. The mind of the senior cat is still calculating angles, speed, and trajectory, finding deep satisfaction in the mastery of their environment. It serves as evidence that the hunter within never truly retires. It simply learns to wait longer for the perfect opportunity. This patience is inextricably linked to the movement of the sun and the ancient rhythms of the natural world. While popular culture often paints the cat as a nocturnal creature, prowling the deep darkness of midnight, biology tells a slightly different story. Cats are technically crepuscular, meaning their internal clocks are hardwired to peak during the twilight hours of dawn and dusk. This is not a random preference, but a precise evolutionary calibration designed to mirror the activity of their prey. The small rodents, lizards, and birds that formed the ancestral feline diet are most active during these low-light transition periods, utilizing the dimness to avoid larger predators while still having enough light to forage.
Consequently, the cat's mind is programmed to surge with wakefulness exactly when the world of small scurrying things comes alive. This alignment explains why a house cat with a bowl full of kibble and no need to hunt will still wake its owner at 5 a.m. with urgent energy. Their circadian rhythm is ignoring the abundance of domestic life and answering the call of a genetic history that spans millions of years. Between these two spikes of twilight activity, the feline body enters a profound state of energy conservation. We observe this as excessive sleeping, with the average cat dozing for 12 to 16 hours a day and older cats resting for up to 20. However, the nature of this sleep is distinct from human rest. A large portion of their downtime consists of light sleep, a state of suspended animation where the brain remains vigilant. Even when they appear dead to the world, their ears continue to act as radar dishes, swiveling toward acoustic anomalies, ready to trigger a fight or flight response in a fraction of a second. When they do slip into deep REM sleep, the mind lowers its guard, allowing for the twitching whiskers and paddling paws that suggest active dreaming. Yet, for an indoor cat, the energy saved during these long naps sometimes outweighs the energy expended, leading to a unique physiological valve. This results in one of the most entertaining and baffling feline behaviors, the frenetic random activity period, scientifically abbreviated as FRAP, but more affectionately known as the zoomies. This sudden explosion of sprinting, drifting around corners, and scaling furniture is the mind's way of burning off surplus caloric energy that would have otherwise been used patrolling a territory or stalking prey. It is a biological reset button. Does your cat have a specific time of day when the zoomies hit, or perhaps a favorite sunbeam they track across the floor for their naps? I would love to read about their daily rituals in the comments. It is fascinating to observe how after this chaotic release of energy, the cat will often stop as abruptly as they started, groom themselves with composed dignity, and immediately return to sleep.
The cycle of the hunter is one of extreme contrast, oscillating between absolute stillness and explosive power, governed by the rising and setting of the sun, regardless of whether they ever step foot outside. This internal rhythm drives them to spend nearly 2/3 of their lives in a state of slumber, a schedule that might look like lethargy to the untrained eye, but is actually a masterpiece of biological efficiency. To a human observer, a cat sleeping for 12 to 16 hours a day might appear indulgent, yet this prolonged rest is an evolutionary mandate rather than a lifestyle choice. In the wild, the act of hunting requires bursts of intense anaerobic energy that deplete bodily resources at an alarming rate, and nature dictates that such expensive energy expenditure must be balanced by aggressive conservation. Even for the modern domestic cat, whose only prey might be a feather on a string or a laser pointer, the biological blueprint remains unchanged, demanding they stockpile energy for a hunt that may never come. It is worth noting that older cats and growing kittens may drift even further into the dream world, sometimes banking nearly 20 hours of rest in a single day to fuel their aging joints or rapidly developing nervous systems. However, not all of this time is spent in the deep oblivion of unconsciousness, and understanding the feline mind requires distinguishing between true sleep and the phenomenon we colloquially call a cat nap. Roughly 75% of their sleeping time is spent in light, slow wave sleep, where the brain remains surprisingly accessible to the outside world. In this mode, the cat is essentially resting its eyes while keeping its engine idling, ready to accelerate at a moment's notice. You might notice that during these periods of light sleep, a cat rarely exposes its vulnerable belly, preferring instead to keep its paws tucked beneath the chest in the classic loaf position. This posture allows for an immediate spring into action, maintaining a ready state where the body relaxes but the sensory perimeter remains fully armed. While the eyes are closed to block out visual stimuli, the ears continue to perform complex surveillance, often rotating independently like radar dishes to track the movement of footsteps in the hall or the wind against the window. The feline auditory cortex remains active even while the animal appears to be dozing, filtering these sounds against a backdrop of white noise to determine if they require attention. This ability to selectively process auditory data while asleep is a survival mechanism rooted in their dual status in the food chain. A cat is a predator, certainly, but it is also small enough to be prey to larger carnivores, meaning it must remain vigilant against threats even while recharging its batteries. If a sound is deemed safe, the brain ignores it, but if a specific frequency suggests danger or the opening of a treat jar, the cat can transition from sleep to full alertness in a fraction of a second, a feat of neurological switching that humans simply cannot replicate. It is only in short intervals, usually lasting 10 to 15 minutes at a time, that they enter the restorative depths of REM sleep. This is when the brain finally disengages from the environment to process memory and emotion, and where the body undergoes a profound paralysis known as muscle atonia. This mechanism prevents the cat from physically acting out the scenes playing in its mind, though you might still see paws paddling or whiskers trembling as they chase phantoms across a mental landscape. Crucially, this deep sleep is when the body performs its most vital maintenance, engaging in a unique physiological process that keeps them strong even while sedentary. While humans generally require active resistance exercise to build and maintain muscle definition, cats possess a specialized biology that allows their muscles to remain toned and ready purely through the restorative chemistry of sleep. Their bodies synthesize proteins and repair tissue fibers during these deep cycles with remarkable efficiency, ensuring that even after a 12-hour nap, their muscles are not atrophied, but rather primed for explosive power. This state of physical restoration stands in sharp contrast to the electric storm occurring within their minds. While the muscles are engaged in quiet repair, the brain enters a phase of activity that is indistinguishable from being wide awake, a phenomenon often referred to by neuroscientists as paradoxical sleep. When a cat slips past the initial stages of light dozing and enters deep slumber, their brain activity shifts dramatically, mirroring the high-frequency voltage patterns found in humans during our most vivid dreaming cycles. The sleeping cat is not merely switched off, it is mentally alert, navigating a complex internal world constructed entirely from memory, instinct, and sensory data. This suggests that the feline mind does not simply shut down to save energy, but rather shifts gears to process the immense amount of information gathered during its waking hours. This internal activity often bubbles up to the surface in small, visible tremors that offer us a window into their subconscious. You have likely observed these telltale signs while watching a cat doze on a sunny windowsill or curled at the foot of a bed. The whiskers may begin to twitch rhythmically, as if sensing the air currents of a phantom breeze, while the paws paddle softly against the cushion, mimicking the kneading motion of contentment or perhaps the silent steps of a stalk. Beneath their closed eyelids, you can sometimes see the physical evidence of their gaze darting back and forth, tracking invisible objects across a dreamscape. These rapid eye movements are the signature of deep dreaming, indicating that the cat is visually hallucinating a scenario that feels entirely real to them. This naturally begs the question of what exactly a cat sees in the theater of its mind. Since we cannot ask them to recount their nightly adventures, scientists infer the subject matter based on the specific neural pathways that light up during these cycles. The hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for memory and spatial mapping, fires in the same specific patterns during sleep as it does when the cat is exploring a new room or tracking a toy. This implies that a house cat might be dreaming of chasing a laser pointer or pouncing on a feather, effectively practicing their survival skills in the safety of the subconscious. This mental rehearsal serves a crucial evolutionary function, allowing the brain to consolidate memories and refine motor sequences, ensuring that the cat wakes up slightly sharper and more adept than when it went to sleep. To prevent these vivid internal simulations from resulting in physical chaos, the feline body employs a sophisticated neurological brake. During REM sleep, the brainstem sends a powerful signal down the spinal cord that actively inhibits the motor neurons controlling the large skeletal muscles. This mechanism, known as muscle atonia, induces a temporary paralysis that keeps the sleeping animals safely anchored in place. Without this paralysis, the line between dream and reality would vanish. In famous neurological studies from the mid-20th century, researchers observed cats where this specific inhibitory mechanism was disabled. The results were astounding. The sleeping cats would stand up, arch their backs, hiss at invisible threats, and pounce on non-existent prey, physically acting out the drama of their dreams in real time. This confirmed that the feline subconscious is not a place of passive observation, but a dynamic arena of hunting and exploration, held in check only by the delicate chemistry of the brainstem. Upon waking, that neurological activation shifts from the internal world of dreams to the external maintenance of the body. One of the most dominant behaviors in a cat's life is grooming, an activity that consumes an enormous portion of their conscious existence. Studies regarding feline time budgets suggest that an adult cat spends anywhere from 30 to 50% of their waking life tending to their coat. This staggering investment of energy indicates that the process is far more critical than simple cleanliness. If you observe a cat for any length of time, you realize this ritual is a cornerstone of their daily rhythm, serving functions that are as much psychological as they are physical. The sensation of the tongue against fur provides a specific grounding feedback loop for the feline nervous system. The cat's tongue is covered with backwards-facing spines called papillae, which act like a sophisticated comb. But beyond the mechanics of detangling fur or removing debris, the rhythmic, repetitive motion of licking stimulates the release of endorphins in the brain. it acts as a natural sedative. This chemical release explains why grooming is often the first response to stress or uncertainty. When a cat is feeling overwhelmed, the act of grooming serves to physically lower their heart rate and stabilize their mood. It's a form of self-regulation, a way to manually reset their emotional state through physical repetition, bringing the mind back to a baseline of calm. This profound connection between grooming and anxiety leads to a fascinating behavior known as displacement grooming. You may have noticed this if a cat accidentally slips while jumping to a windowsill or is startled by a loud, sudden noise. Immediately after the mishap, they will often sit down and furiously groom a patch of fur on their shoulder or flank. To the human observer, it looks like they are embarrassed, pretending the mistake didn't happen, much like a person checking their phone when they feel awkward in a social setting. In the feline mind, however, this is a rapid coping mechanism. The brain is momentarily conflicted between competing impulses, perhaps the urge to run versus the urge to investigate, and the grooming behavior acts as a neutral outlet to diffuse that sudden spike of nervous tension. The psychology of hygiene extends outward to their social relationships as well. When two familiar cats engage in mutual grooming, known scientifically as allo-grooming, they are reinforcing a deep social bond. Interestingly, this behavior is almost exclusively focused on the head and neck areas. These are the specific parts of the body a cat cannot reach by itself. By allowing another cat to groom these vulnerable, inaccessible areas, they're displaying immense trust. It creates a communal scent profile, effectively marking the other cat as family. Furthermore, there is often a subtle hierarchy at play here, where the higher-ranking cat initiates the grooming, turning a gentle grooming ritual into a gentle assertion of social order and care. This biological strictness also influences their microbiome, where the bacteria living in a cat's gut produce a staggering amount of the serotonin found in their bodies. If the gut flora is imbalanced due to high carbohydrate fillers that their systems cannot properly break down, the production of these mood-regulating chemicals plummets. A cat with an upset stomach is frequently a cat with a distressed mind, prone to aggression or fearful hiding, not necessarily because of personality, but because the chemical signals for calmness are missing. This intricate chemical balance extends to hydration, a constant struggle for an animal whose ancestors roamed the arid deserts of the Near East. The modern house cat retains the low thirst drive of these desert hunters, who evolved to obtain nearly all of their moisture from the blood and tissue of prey. Consequently, many domestic cats live in a state of chronic low-level dehydration because they simply do not feel the urge to drink water until they are critically dry. This lack of fluid impacts cognitive function just as it does in humans, leading to brain fog and a lack of focus. It is why they are often fascinated by running taps. The movement mimics a fresh stream, bypassing the low thirst drive by triggering a visual instinct for clean, moving resources. Their reluctance to drink from a bowl placed too close to their food is another mental relic, a survival instinct warning them that water near a kill could be contaminated, proving that their dietary quirks are actually ancient safeguards for their health. This instinctual need for safety transitions seamlessly into how they interpret the strange, towering creatures they share their territory with. When you call out to a cat and they rotate a single ear towards you without lifting their head, it is rarely an act of indifference, but rather a calculated assessment of the auditory signal you have just broadcast. Research into feline cognition suggests that cats do not understand their names as a concept of identity or self in the way humans do, but rather as a highly significant sound pattern that stands out against the low-frequency hum of daily life. Through a process of associative learning, they isolate that specific phonetic sequence, usually 2 syllables with a distinct rising inflection, because it historically predicts a noteworthy event, such as the arrival of dinner, a sudden treat, or a tactile reward like a scratch behind the ears. In controlled studies where researchers played recordings of owners saying nouns that sounded phonetically similar to the cat's name, followed by the name itself, the cats displayed a phenomenon known as habituation to the random words, effectively ignoring them. However, when the actual name was spoken, even with the same intonation, they demonstrated a rebound response, moving their heads or vocalizing, proving they can distinguish the precise acoustic footprint of their moniker from a stream of similar-sounding decoys. This ability to parse human speech is heavily dependent on the tone we employ. You may have noticed that you naturally pitch your voice higher when speaking to a feline, adopting an exaggerated rhythmic style known scientifically as cat-directed speech, or more commonly, baby talk. While this shift in register might feel like a silly human habit, it is actually the most efficient way to penetrate a cat's auditory filters. Felines are biologically tuned to respond to higher frequencies, which in nature would correspond to the high-pitched squeaks of prey or the distress chirps of a kitten. When we speak in a deep, monotone voice, the register we typically use for other adults, cats often categorize the sound as low-priority background noise. However, the higher octaves and elongated vowels of baby talk signal to the cat that the information is specifically intended for them, triggering increased attention and engagement. They are not just listening to what we say, but how we say it, allowing them to differentiate their primary owner's voice from a stranger's instantly, even without visual confirmation. This recognition anchors the profound bond they form with their primary caregiver, a relationship that mimics the dynamic between a kitten and its mother. Contrary to the misconception that cats view humans merely as food dispensers, they often form a secure attachment to their owners, a psychological term used to describe how human infants view their parents as a base of safety. When placed in an unfamiliar environment, a cat is significantly more confident and willing to explore if their specific human is present, retreating to them for reassurance if something startles them. This suggests they view you not as a master, but as a surrogate parent and a protector. Speaking of these unique bonds, it is often observed that a cat will choose one specific person in a household as their favorite, directing their affection and trust disproportionately towards them. I would be curious to know if you are the chosen favorite in your home, or if your cat has selected someone else as their primary person, and how that dynamic shows itself in your daily routine. They are keen observers of the roles we play, often distinguishing between the person who feeds them and the person who provides comfort. They know exactly who is the player, who is the napper, and who is the feeder, adjusting their vocalizations and body language to manipulate the specific human they are targeting for a specific need. As the years pass, the precision of these social maps can sometimes begin to fade, leading us into the complex and tender world of the geriatric feline mind. Just as humans experience cognitive changes with age, cats are susceptible to a condition known as feline cognitive dysfunction, often referred to as FCD. This condition is remarkably similar to Alzheimer's disease in humans, both in its outward symptoms and its physiological causes.
Researchers have discovered that the brains of older cats with FCD develop beta-amyloid plaques, the exact same protein deposits found in human dementia patients. These deposits gradually accumulate and interfere with nerve signal transmission, creating a sort of static in the once clear lines of communication within the brain. It is estimated that nearly 1/3 of cats aged 11 to 14 show at least one sign of this decline, a number that jumps to 50% for cats 15 and older. The manifestation of this cognitive shift is often heartbreakingly subtle. You might observe an older cat staring blankly at a wall or into space, a behavior often jokingly dismissed as seeing ghosts, which is actually indicative of spatial disorientation. They may enter a room and seemingly forget why they are there, or get trapped in a corner, physically able to move but mentally unable to figure out the reverse gear needed to back out. The internal clock also begins to drift. The strictly regulated crepuscular rhythm, that ancient instinct to be active at dawn and dusk, can fracture, leading to distinct sleep-wake cycle disturbances. An affected cat might sleep deeply all day, but wander the house restlessly at night, vocalizing loudly. This specific type of nighttime crying is often driven by anxiety or the sudden inability to locate their humans in the dark as the mental map of the house becomes blurry. Compounding these mental shifts is the physical decline of the senses, which alters how the mind processes the world. When a cat loses its sight, it begins to rely on a mental map of the home that is rigid and absolute. If you move a chair, a blind cat might collide with it not because they are clumsy, but because their internal blueprint hasn't been updated to reflect the change. Their reliance on vibrissae, or whiskers, becomes paramount during this time, using subtle shifts in air currents to detect obstacles they can no longer see. Similarly, age-related hearing loss changes their behavior in counterintuitive ways. A deaf cat meows much louder than before simply because they can no longer hear their own voice to modulate the volume. They start to rely heavily on vibration, feeling the thud of footsteps on the floorboards to know when you are approaching. Yet the aging mind is not entirely helpless. Science has shown that older cats retain a surprising degree of neuroplasticity. They can indeed learn new things, though the pace may be slower. The concept of use it or lose it applies vigorously here. Environmental enrichment, like food puzzles or learning simple hand signals, can actually stimulate the brain and delay cognitive decline. The emotional bond often shifts during this time as well. As their world becomes more confusing or muted, senior cats frequently become more affectionate, tethering themselves to their owners as their primary anchor of safety and familiarity in a shifting reality. This deep emotional tethering raises a fascinating philosophical question about the nature of feline consciousness. Does a cat actually possess a distinct concept of self separate from the world around it? To answer this, scientists have frequently turned to the mirror self-recognition test, a classic experiment where a mark is secretly placed on an animal's face before they are presented with a mirror. While chimpanzees, dolphins, and even magpies have demonstrated the ability to recognize the reflection as themselves and inspect the mark, cats consistently fail this visual assessment. When a cat looks into a mirror, they typically react in one of two ways. They either perceive the reflection as a strange, intruding cat that must be threatened or ignored, or they look behind the mirror to find the source of the image. However, many ethologists argue that this failure does not prove a lack of self-awareness, but rather illustrates a flaw in how humans design tests based on visual dominance. A cat's primary mode of identifying self versus other is not visual, but olfactory. Their sense of identity is constructed through a complex landscape of scent. If a scent mirror could be constructed, where a cat was presented with its own pheromones altered by a foreign smell, they would likely pass the test with flying colors. They know exactly who they are, but their identity is written in the invisible language of chemistry rather than the reflection of light. This internal sense of self extends physically into an extraordinary awareness of their own body mechanics. Cats possess a highly developed proprioception, the awareness of where their body is in space. This is why they can navigate a mantelpiece filled with delicate porcelain without knocking a single item over. Their whiskers, or vibrissae, serve as an external extension of this body schema, allowing them to measure the width of an opening before they even attempt to pass through it. They understand their physical boundaries with mathematical precision, suggesting a very clear cognitive map of where the cat ends and the environment begins. Yet, in a psychological sense, those boundaries are often blurred regarding territory. To a cat, the concept of ownership is likely perceived as an extension of the self. When a cat rubs its cheek against your laptop, a doorframe, or your legs, they are effectively painting the environment with their own identity. A house that smells entirely of the cat is, in their mind, an external layer of their own being, much like a shell is to a snail. This is why moving furniture or introducing new items can be so deeply unsettling for them. It is not just a disruption of the room layout, but a disruption of their extended self. This unique perspective influences how they view their role within a multi-species household. Unlike dogs, who clearly recognize humans as a separate and often superior species to be looked up to for guidance, cats appear to view humans as equals, perhaps just larger, clumsier, and hairless.
Anthrozoologist John Bradshaw suggests that because cats do not alter their social behavior significantly when interacting with us compared to how they interact with other cats, using the same tail raises, rubs, and purrs, they likely perceive us as non-hostile members of their own tribe. In their mind, they are not pets living in your house. You are co-inhabitants living in a shared territory where the hierarchy is fluid, negotiated daily, and defined not by dominance, but by who controls the resources and the most comfortable sleeping spots. Yet this negotiation extends far beyond who claims the most comfortable cushion on the sofa. It reaches into the very neurochemistry of both species. When a cat and a human interact positively, particularly during moments of gentle stroking or mutual gazing, a powerful biological synchronization occurs. Both the feline and the human brain release oxytocin simultaneously, the same hormone responsible for the bonding between a mother and her infant. This chemical bridge suggests that in the mind of the cat, you are family, not just by proximity, but by biology. This connection has tangible effects on human physiology that science is only beginning to fully map. Living with a cat has been statistically linked to a significant reduction in the risk of heart attack and stroke, a benefit attributed to their unique stress-reducing presence they provide. Their influence is auditory as well as chemical. The frequency of a cat's purr creates a vibration between 25 and 150 Hz, a range that corresponds exactly with the frequencies used in therapeutic medicine to promote bone density and heal soft tissue. When a cat curls onto your chest and begins to purr, they are effectively acting as a biomechanical healing device, lowering your blood pressure and slowing your heart rate through sonic resonance. However, the feline mind is also a master of subtle environmental manipulation, adapting its behaviors to ensure its needs are met with remarkable efficiency. Consider the evolution of their voice. Adult cats in the wild almost never meow to one another, reserving vocalizations for kittens or aggressive disputes. The meow is a language developed exclusively for communicating with humans, a vocal interface refined over thousands of years to trigger a response from our specific auditory system. Some cats have even developed what researchers call a solicitation purr, which embeds a high-frequency cry within the low rumble of their contentment. This hidden frequency matches the pitch of a human infant's distress call, making it nearly impossible for the human brain to ignore. Through these adaptations, they train us to respond to their schedules, yet this manipulation is underpinned by a profound capacity for loyalty that contradicts the stereotype of the aloof, solitary hunter. Studies on attachment styles have revealed that cats form secure bonds with their owners that are strikingly similar to those formed by dogs and human children. In unfamiliar or frightening environments, a bonded cat will look to their human as a secure base, displaying signs of distress when separated and relief upon reunion. This behavior indicates that once trust is established, the feline mind categorizes its human not merely as a provider of resources, but as a primary source of safety and emotional grounding. This depth of attachment suggests that while they may act like kings and queens of the territory, they view us as the trusted guardians of their realm. This guardianship is reciprocal, for while we protect their physical world, they anchor our emotional one with a psychology that is both alien and deeply familiar. Ultimately, the mind of a cat is an evolutionary masterpiece of efficiency and emotion, a complex tapestry woven from millions of years of survival instincts and thousands of years of domestic adaptation. It is not a simplified version of human consciousness, nor is it merely a collection of biological reflexes, but something entirely distinct and complete. They possess an intellect that solves problems not with words, but with spatial geometry, patience, and sensory precision. When we look at them, we are observing a perfect predator that has decided, against all odds, to become a friend. A decision based not on servitude, but on a mutual agreement of respect and affection. Yet for all that science has revealed, the true depth of their thoughts remains one of nature's most enduring mysteries. We can map their neurons, track their gaze, and analyze the frequencies of their purrs, but we can never truly step inside that sensory bubble to feel the world through their whiskers or hear the symphony of ultrasonic sounds that defines their reality. We do not know what they see when they stare intently at a blank wall, or where their minds travel during those long, twitching stretches of deep sleep. They keep their secrets well, guarding the details of their dreams and the reasons for their sudden bursts of energy with a playful silence. It is this very mystery that keeps us captivated, forever trying to decode the slow blink or the specific tone of a greeting. In the end, understanding the mechanics of their psychology only deepens the magic of their presence. To share a home with a cat is to live alongside a small, sentient piece of the wild that has learned to love. They remind us that communication transcends language, and that the deepest bonds are often formed in quiet moments of shared proximity. As they curl up beside us, trusting us deeply enough to close their eyes and drift away, they invite us to do the same, to let go of the day's complexities and find comfort in the simple warmth of the present moment. If you have enjoyed this exploration into the quiet intelligence of our feline companions and wish to discover more relaxing facts about the natural world, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. May your own rest be as deep and peaceful as a cat sleeping in a patch of afternoon sun.